pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. You see, the panel is already here. Also, Coach Pettaway will not be able to join us, but we have the sixth man of the year, I like to call Ossie Clark joining us. Gentlemen, as always, good morning to Charles. Good morning to Ossie. Good morning to Carlos Brown. And Charles looks like he's having a meltdown. And good afternoon to Will.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Charles,
Coach Crenshaw, right? Coach Crenshaw, you need to Carlos Brown on your own time.
Free Crenshaw, baby. Free Crenshaw.
To get on the show. Coach Crenshaw, no, sir. No, sir. No. We're not on the camera. No, sir.
Give him the Carlos Brown extension.
Yeah.
Well, you get tossed between Carlos Brown and Chris Crenshaw.
Not so fast, but guess what, Charles? I was a bit worried last night. I was kind of monitoring the show on the game on media, social media, and boy, the Jags come back to get the victory. But man, I was worried but hey, they got it done. I would want a sweep, but sometimes that's a hard thing to do because on any given day, even a team that has had not much success can come back and get a victory. We saw Mississippi Valley last week against Bethune-Cookman after they're coming off defeating LSU. And by the way, they get it done again. They defeated Florida, a ranked team. So you respect your opponents, fear none. I think somebody said once before.
But, we talk about sweeps, Carlos. Actually, Southern has won 5 in a row. They swept Grambling, and I think they beat Suno, or I think they had a midweek game, and then they won last night. So Southern is starting to find a little bit of momentum. And what I didn't know, Carlos, 2 things. Mm-hmm. Number one, there's a former Brave on the Jaguar roster, a kid by the name of Jalen Lucky who played here. Mm-hmm. And then I looked down at the batting cage, and I'm like, that looks like Antoine Riggins, the former coach of Prairie View. And lo and behold, he's on the staff as the assistant coach and third base coach. So a couple little nuggets I didn't know going in.
Well, with that information, I expect a big one coming up. 5 in a row, you're right, Bethune-Cookman on a 4-game winning streak. And everything else is on a losing streak.
Crenshaw going down swinging.
Well, that's what I would do. But I'm no baseball coach, But welcome in, folks. Another edition of the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Kind of get to what's trending. Got kind of a lot of things to talk about. One, the NCAA recommends an early start to the football season in 2027. There's also SWAC's new football scheduling model. I think that's going to get hot and heavy. I want to hear what Ossie has to say about that. And, of course, the panel. SWAC TV news update. Interesting stuff. We came into the show with We Are One, the band, Southern Bands player, and the conference. They have that single mindset. We are one. And they have some good things going on. Very good. Then, of course, SWAC baseball in full swing and SWAC softball and baseball heating up. The Lady Jags are second in the West, a game behind Prairie View. Impressive, man. Softball, we don't talk about it as much, but Prairie View, always in the thick of it. You got FAMU. But Jaguars, I believe, swept Grambling. I want to mention the score, but I said they got it done. Those topics. You want to start with the SWAC football season 2027. We have week 0, but now football games, and there've been a lot of them each year, start playing at week 0. the recommends an early start for football season. So we're looking at what? Additionally, the first Saturday in September. But as I just stated, you've had more teams playing the week before. Basically, you're going to start seeing with the recommendation, everybody has the opportunity to start early. So that means Wheeler, Ossie, and Charles coming to camp early. Usually the 1st of July, 1st of August, but then some come at the last week in July. So it'll be a chance to adapt for all the football playing schools.
You want to have to back it up about 7 days. No doubt about that. You also got to look at the expenses incurred. Because normally there's no classes going on. The dorms are shut down. Cafeteria pretty much shut down for the most part. And so, everybody gonna have their hand out, and you're gonna have to grease some palms there. If you bring them kids in an extra week early. Even the kids who stay off campus, who live off campus, coach is gonna want them on campus at least, for those first 2 weeks of camp, that sort of thing. You want everybody on campus pretty much. And so it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. But it's just another expense. I mean, it's worth it. There's no doubt about that. So, they just got to suck it up and go.
Now, you could tell, if you didn't notice and you tune in, you could tell who's the administrator, sports administrator on here. The first thing he talked about was that's going to be an extra expense we have to cover. But he's right. Because, Wheeler, we talked a couple of weeks ago about it was, how administrators, AD, getting kids on campus in the summer, academically. But now, you're right. It's another expense. Well, which you guys, and I say you guys, will have to come up with that extra money.
Which is out there. It's out there. You work little deals with housing and with the dining services and all that sort of thing, and it's a way to get it done, and most schools will get it done. Then you'll find some schools that won't play week, quote unquote, 0, that will wait until that following week, and we'll bring kids in when they normally bring them in. But and those are going to be your schools that probably not going to do well, throughout the season. Because if you give me a head start, I'm going to take advantage of it.
Well, the head start to me is, you talk about week 0, and I commend the NCAA for making that adjustment. It seems like, for all the criticism that they get in terms of being antiquated, it looks like they're starting to loosen things up and getting with the modern times of doing things, especially with the calendar. But, some teams are coming in July, like here. The last several years, we bring our kids in July and they're here. They may get a few days the end of July getting ready for, the fall, the first week in August. But, generally, I think a lot of football programs, and I would even say even most of our schools in this conference, their kids are already in July and late June. So I don't know what adjustments that could be made. You're already in school, you're already in class, you're already acclimated on campus in the summer. It may be slow, but at least I think schools are doing it. And at least the NCAA has made that adjustment as well.
Listen to this quote. Vanderbilt coach Clark Leah, who is a member of the Football Oversight Committee, told ESPN the football season calendar has been a health and safety issue that needed to be addressed. To go through a season without 2 bye weeks is challenging to a roster. And in a time where we've imposed roster limits, and in our league where we've been playing 9 league games now on the off years where we weren't able to get that second bye, we believe there's a negative impact mentally, physically, and emotionally to the players, coaches, everyone involved.
I hate to say this. I think that's BS. And this is coming from somebody that back in the day, we played 11 weeks in a row. There were no breaks in between, no bye weeks and all that sort of thing. We went straight through. and kids didn't complain about this, that, and the other. Wasn't any concern from the training staff about, well, you guys need some rest and all that sort of thing and stuff. And, so it's a history of things being done that way. So I just don't think, we need to bring up the excuses that kids need to rest a week and all that sort of thing. And so I don't know, maybe it's just me, I guess.
Well, no, not go ahead, Austin, but that was Vanderbilt coach.
I was going to say this to the point that has been made already, gentlemen. When you really just think about it, let's just talk about what it really is. At the end of the day, the NCAA has a product, and they need an opportunity to make more money, and that's exactly what they're going to do by backing it up an extra week. It has nothing to do with health and wellness concerns. If you had health and wellness concerns, you would never play a game at 2:00 in the afternoon in the South. So health and wellness concerns is definitely out of the window for me. When you look at it, the bottom line comes back down to that thing that's called money. It's called money. And when you have a product, you want to make sure that you can make as much of it as you possibly can. So you back it up an extra week, you play an extra week, have another fleet of games that's going to bring in another so many billions of dollars to an already huge mechanism. So when you look at it, the bottom line is going to come back down to money. I don't think it has anything to do with health, wellness, or concerns of players. It's about the money. But on both sides, and to Wheeler's point, you got to start thinking about now you got to incur a cost where the NCAA is going to make money on the back end.
And interesting, that reminds me of what I saw after the show last week or before last week's show. Jackson State, they last few years they've been playing a few of their games at home, right? At 2 p.m., 1 p.m. I know sometimes it's television induces that, but I saw on social media that I know I think their home games are moving to 6 p.m. And that's great for the Southern and Jackson State game coming in there. And I think that'll be an encouraging sign that they perhaps can fill the stadium even more. Because they pride themselves on having a number one FCS attendance.
And I can't tell you, Carlos, how many times I tried to push that very same narrative when I was AD there, and all the kickback that I got from almost every source imaginable. That this is the way that we used to do it, and all this sort of thing. And I'm just glad somebody finally has waken up, and it's getting done.
I remember, Carlos, when I was at Grambling, and Ossie might remember this. We used to play some games at Eddie Robinson Memorial Stadium in the daytime, and some people passed out and fell out. And the administration stepped in and said, that's not going to happen again at Grambling. We're going to play those games at night, especially in August and September, because of health and safety of the fans, as well as the players. I don't know if Grambling still does that, but when I was in school, they did it one year, and people passed out, and they said, we're not doing that again. So I don't know if they changed that or if it's changed or what. But I remember when I was in school years ago, that was the case.
There was only one time, Charles, that I can remember in recent history that Grambling has actually played an afternoon game or midday game. It was a couple of years ago against Louisiana Tech when they were doing a broadcast on the NFL Network. And the NFL Network wanted to put the game on at 2:00. And the very issue that you just mentioned was the issue that happened at Louisiana Tech. The band who performed at halftime, by the time the halftime was over with, had to go get on the bus and leave because the heat was so bad until they couldn't even stay at the stadium at Louisiana Tech. And so when you have those type of concerns like you were just talking about, 2:00 in the afternoon, Grambling made that decision a long time ago. I think they got twisted into that because of the NFL Network deal. But after that, they said they don't care who it is at this point. Whenever we play a game, it's going to be in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And and that's interesting. I'm thinking about that. Here at Southern, you of course you have homecoming. Then in late November or beginning of middle of November, last game, you have a 2:00 game, but the temperature is totally different than August and September. Now, let me ask you this. Then some, not me, but some on the other side, the opposite side would say, well, you have 3 weeks fall camp, 4 weeks, and you're scheduling in the morning that is real hot. Then some, wait till late in the evening or at night to schedule. So how do you answer those who said, if that's the case, what's the big deal about playing at 2:00 in the daytime?
Well, you have an acclimation period, Carlos, but you never get acclimated. Yeah, let me repeat that. You have that period, where, your guys are practicing in the heat, that sort of thing, because you want them to try to get used to it, but you never fully get used to it. So, I mean, especially with today's softer kids, they never get used to it. I mean, it just is what it is. They melting like fun out there. So I mean, but in the past, you never really looked out for the fans and all that sort of thing and stuff. You just wanted to go ahead and have the game early. I mean, a lot of times you'll hear alums say, well, if you have the game at 2:00, game's over like 4:30. If I got a 3-hour ride to get home, I can get home before it gets real late, that sort of thing. But if you have the 6:00 game, it's not over till almost 9, and chances are I might have to get a hotel room or something and spend the night and go back home on Sunday. So you'll hear all kinds of excuses, as to why it should be this, that, or the other. At the end of the day, you got to make the right decision for the kids. Not saying we don't take the fans in mind and all that sort of thing, because we do, but it starts with the kids and then it works its way out.
On that note, we'll continue the conversation. We need to take a quick time out. You're watching the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We shall return.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6:00 p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. HBCU Image, a Kenny T.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Yours truly, Carlos Brown, and the panel. I tell you what, we're kind of talking about being in shape and condition. Those members in the band in those parade routes. Oh, man, tough. You know, Dr. Griggs once said the most conditioned athletes on campus was his band members. And they practice hard. Now, of course, not the physical contact, but cardio. Oh,
if you ever felt one of those band uniforms, Jesus Christ, that's like wearing a full gear football stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. If you're just joining us, we want to say grand rising to everyone in the chat room. As usual, they're having some interesting conversation. I'm gonna look at a couple of ones, and we have a couple of questions. If you just tuned in, we were talking about the NCAA recommending the start of the football season in 2027 to basically an earlier start. We're going to call it week 0. Everybody has the opportunity to do so. And what Willa brought up a good point. If you still, your scheduling is done the first week in September to open the season, you're able to do that as well. Since we had a question in the chat room about the new football scheduling model, that was something I also wanted to talk about. Any thoughts about SWAC teams no longer playing teams lower than the Division I starting in 2027? Now, Willa, it's not. You can still schedule your Tuskegees and your Fort Valley. It's the ones like Virginia Lynchburg.
91s.
How about
Mississippi
NAIA?
Bible and all those,
Yeah. How about NAIA teams? That's included, right?
It seems to be.
Okay.
It seems to be. And you know, I think a good move. You know, I just kind of, I don't know. You know, it just goes to show that if you want to do things from a scheduling point of view, you know, you can. Yeah, so I mean, this can revert back to basketball, that sort of thing, and you know, the conference trying to do some things in order to get a better seeding at the end of the year. You know, there's just things of that nature. So it just proves that you can get a quorum together and make change from that point of view if everybody wants to do it.
Well, they went through the proper procedure, Charles, to get it done. So it's going to be done.
I'm actually kind of surprised. I mean, when Dr. McClellan just put it out there at the golf tournament, I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? I mean, because it kind of came out of left field, and obviously there's been some internal discussion about it. It's probably been in the making for a minute, my guess, my opinion. It's probably been in the making, been discussed and cussed about for a while. But he talked about it, and I think I'm anxious. And I didn't see our athletic director, but I'm anxious to get his thoughts on now what the challenge is going to be going forward. Now, this year's schedule is already done, of course. We're playing North Alabama FCS team. We're opening their new stadium, $65 million stadium that they're opening up September 19th. We're opening that up, and he mentioned that it's going to be just one game there. It's not going, as of right now, it's not going to be a return game to Alcorn. So my question is, what's going to be, how much of a challenge is it going to be when you can't play the Lynchburgs of the world? Now you're looking at playing the Langstons and the others. Is that going to be a challenge? And when it comes to negotiating, are they going to want a little bit more because we're trying to fill the schedule? Is that going to increase their asking price in terms of getting those schools? And then, Carlos, to your point, and you've been saying this for 50 years, why not play more FCS? Will more of those conversations be had as you try to fill your schedule? So from an administrative standpoint, and Wheeler could probably speak to it, the challenge is going to be now because we've been leaning on the Lynchburgs We've been leaning on the Lincolns.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're no longer feasible. What's that going to be for the other schools that we're trying to contact and them trying to contact us?
I mean, it'd be nice not to have to worry about whether or not they're going to show up or not, because you're on pins and needles up until that Thursday of game week or Friday of game week until you hear that they're at the hotel and they're there, that sort of thing. But, I mean, the D2s are going to ask for more money. There's no doubt about that, and rightfully so.
Bargaining.
The cost has been going up steadily over the last few years as it is. So, ADs are going to have to prepare for that. It hurts the programs that do it the right way. The Mississippi Bibles, quote unquote, that do have a requisite number of scholarships, that do, travel, with a decent number, that do things the right way. Now they're not able to make those funds, in terms of playing our schools, that sort of thing. So, I mean, at the end of the day, guys, I think it was necessary to do so. No doubt about that. Takes one worry off the plate. And we just, keep it moving from there. But those schools that have difficulty getting games, it's going to be issues for them. A lot of times they're scheduling Lynchburg and them because, during the season, that's all they can get, or, that's the only team that'll play them, that sort of thing. And, so they're just going to have to find creative ways to get it done.
Now,
and here's the other thing. Can I drop this, Julian, real quick? When you now have streaming purposes, it does you no good to play a team like the Lincolns and the Bishop Sycamores and the Mary Mother Louises of the world, because it just doesn't look good on television. When you're trying to recruit top-tier athletes to come in, whether that's transfer portals or people that you want to come in immediately to your program, and you're playing schools that are not competitive on the football field with you, then that's going to take everything away from you. It even takes views away from you. So when eyes are not on the program, it hurts the program as a whole. And I think that's the best decision that the SWAC could have made. And thank God for Dr. McQuillan just coming out and just saying we would no longer play those type of football games, because we want everybody to know that the Southwestern Athletic Conference is a competitive conference that great athletes can come and participate and have an opportunity to go on to that next level.
And valid points, Ossie. Panel, you remember, I'm gonna try to tie this in, a couple of months ago, when we were talking about the guarantee games, and I said, what happens if those games are no longer available to our schools? What's the plan? I believe Willa said, well, when we get there, we'll have there's no plan.
With everything, we make it up as we go along, Carlos.
So
we'll figure it out.
Right. And so I, too, like what the commissioner did, and I would like to extend this to basketball. But that's another fight for another day. So, to your point, some school institutions in the conference, they're not going to have a problem, and everybody's been guilty of playing those type of games. Now, you look at Prairie View; they're scheduled this year, coming up. They playing Tarleton State. They playing some tough. Prairie View, I'm gonna give a prop. They've always basically played those schools in their area. Then that leads me to this. Geographically, let's say Southern and Grambling, they've got other FCS football playing institutions in the state. And they've been playing them. Now, Mississippi, who do you have, Charles? You got Jackson State, Alcorn, and Valley.
Right.
Now, what other FCS football playing schools that you have in the area?
Well, you got Tennessee State. You have Tennessee State that's within striking distance, I think, from logistically. You got Central Arkansas and Conway, Arkansas. They're an FCS. They're an FCS opponent. That's within striking. That's within decent range, right outside of Little Rock. Those are two that I can think of.
It's not many in the state.
It's not many.
Yeah. And so geographically, Wheeler, then, because they're gonna want a home and home.
Oh, no doubt.
Remember the conversation we had? Well, you know, 2 for 1. Some schools gonna have no problem at all scheduling those games, but now we do know some schools will.
Yeah. If I think you're gonna beat me, Carlos, and I'm talking if I'm on the other side of the fence, you know, and I'm at those, you know, PWI, FCS schools. If I think you're gonna beat me, okay, and we're in the same kind of geographic area, meaning we recruit some of the same kinds of kids, okay, I can't afford to have you come beat me, and then we're bumping heads at Booker T. Washington High School, trying to get a particular kid, that sort of thing, you know, because they're going to use that against you in terms of, well, you don't want to go there. We beat them every year. You know, that sort of thing. So we talk about, you know, recruiting aspects and things of that nature. So that's something that has to go into play also, besides the fact that, you know, I don't want y'all to beat me. You know, if y'all got a chance to beat me, I'm a PWI. I don't want that to happen, that sort of thing. And, you know, so, I mean, it's all kind of excuses, quote unquote, not to do it, you know, which is why you get more money, you know, going further out.
Well, on that point, go ahead, Charles. I think I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, I was going to say, I mean, I understand Wheeler's point, and he's correct, but I'm wondering in this new landscape that seems to be the catchphrase now in college athletics, in this new landscape with some programs offering more NIL than others, I wonder, is that going to change the mindset? Yeah, you got these kids looking to go to one of our schools versus a McNeese. But if McNeese is offering you a decent NIL and one of our schools isn't, does that make it a game changer?
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, that's my concern there. I mean, if you know,
they ain't thinking twice, Charles.
Right, exactly. So I think that's going to weed itself out. But Carlos, to add to your other point, as far as what we look at, we've looked at schools in Louisiana. We played the Northwestern states. We played the McNeese states. We played the Stephen F. Austins in the same. And so we're looking more west than east because those schools can offer the type of guarantee that we're looking for. And I don't know if you're going to see that as much anymore, though, because those schools are paying these players too. They've got the NIL. So the FCS guarantees, the one-way games, and I call it, I think that's going to be far-fetched to get. You know, the North Dakota States teams that we played, they're moving up. They're moving up. North Dakota State is now going to be FBS, so you can take them off the table. So I'm just wondering now, and I think I saw a post the other day, maybe we ought to start going back to playing SWAC teams, even though the games on paper don't count. Like,
no.
Well, I'm just saying, you feel the sketch. I'm just saying, Carlos.
Ossie, help me out. No.
I'm just saying. Somebody made a post about it, and I mean, I think fans would like it. I mean, if Southern is playing Valley and it doesn't count, even though it doesn't count on paper, it's still a SWAC game. It still draws the attention. It still gets the attention from us and from folks who follow the SWAC. So I'm just wondering, would that be now back on the table, whereas just 60 days ago might not have been the case?
Or add another game and make it count. Add another game and make it count. Make it a conference game.
I think the other thing is that when you really start thinking about it, the fans today, in today's, and I like the use of the word landscape, Charles, are calling for the Southwestern Athletic Conference to play more FCS opponents that are outside of the conference. Now, where I am more of a traditionalist and say, hey, let's just load them up and let's just play, because it may become a logistical issue for some teams. And so I don't have any issues with that. But the landscape is now saying, and I was looking at this the other day, where people are saying, well, hey, with this new landscape, with this new 12-game schedule that everybody's going to have an opportunity to play, now you can't play the Lynchburgs and that in 27. Will you now put teams on your schedule that are more competitive, that will have to force the Southwestern Athletic Conference to rise up and play. And like you said, Charles, Alcorn hasn't had that issue. They played the Northwesterns, the Stephen F. Austins. They played those types of football teams. And I think that overall, that's what people are looking for. They're looking to see if we can be competitive with the Tarleton States, who's an outstanding football program over here in the state of Texas. And so the overall look for me when I start looking at it is, can we put teams on the schedule that's going to do the best job to promote the conference at large?
Good point, because it seems like with this legislation just passed, that's what they're trying to do. Financially, they're doing better, and we're going to get into some more information with the SWAC TV news update. So you're building, you're branding, you're building, you're branding. You should want to be able to play those other non-conference FCS teams, but as the late Dr. Gibson said, play them and beat them. Start being competitive.
But it's not that easy, Carlo. It is not that easy to play those teams when, on one hand, as an AD, you're looking to generate revenue with a guarantee. How many FCS teams can offer you a guarantee? The only way you're going to get it is if you got a one-way game, or you play a 2-for-1 or 3-for-1. I've heard of a 3-for-1 deal out there. They come to you once, you go to them 3 times, you're going to get a guarantee. So how many of those schools can offer you that? Most schools, like Southeast Louisiana, for example, I didn't mention them, but they're FCS 2.5 hours away from here. You know what they're going to tell you? Home and home.
And I might be in a minority, Charles. I might be in a minority, but there comes a point in time, we got to stop sticking our hand out. You know, we want to check, got to have a check, need a check, that sort of thing. How about let's just go play
and beat them?
You know, and let's just go. You know, that way you ain't got to worry about whether or not, you know, it's gonna be a 2-for-1 and all that sort of thing and stuff. And I mean, let's just go. If I ain't looking for no money, you know, let's go play the game.
That sounds good for us, Wheeler, but when you have an AD who has a boss, the chief fiscal officer of the university, who has a boss as in the president, and all they're talking about is money in terms of trying to generate some money for athletics, that conversation comes up. So now all of a sudden, the whole dynamic, I agree with you on the surface. Let's play football. Let's as you say, put your big boy pants on and let's go. But then you got some people on the other side of the fence saying, okay, well, in terms of the dollars and cents, does it make sense? And if it doesn't, then the other part of it, and I thought about this too, anytime you put a football schedule together, Wheeler, you know this, you got to check in with your head coach too. You know, your head coach has got to sign off on some of this too. Like if your head coach is not exactly on board with playing some of these games, then you got to kind of back up a little bit and try to find something that's pleasing for the head coach as well. And I think that's another conversation that Roman Banks, A.D. Robinson, and I think Ashley Robinson and TC on the same page when it comes to scheduling. But in this new landscape going forward, you better check in with your football coach. And I know all ADs do when you're trying to put these type of games together, because there's a financial component, there's a competitive component with this too that has to be balanced out in that equation.
Well, you know, a lot of times I'm playing Mississippi Bible because my head coach wants me to. Yeah, I ain't playing them not necessarily because I want to. Yeah, I mean, I might have a coach that's on the last leg in terms of his contract. In the last year of his contract, he might need 8-2. Okay, if I don't put Mississippi Bible on the schedule, he might wind up 7-3. You know, he might lose his job at the end of the day. So, I mean, like you said, Charles, it's 1,000 things that come into play. It's a matter of, as we say, trying to find that happy medium. Sorry about that, Ossie.
Oh, no, that's right. I'm glad that you jumped in, Wheeler, because the other thing that I was thinking about that the landscape wants to talk about is at some point, and I know that it's an improbability for at least 2 schools that we know of, maybe 3. if you're going to play the FCS schools and you have the opportunity to go to the FCS playoffs, now are you going to go to the FCS playoffs now? And that's going to be one of those conversation pieces that is going to be had because, hey, Alabama State last year was one step away from the SWAC championship. So do they have an opportunity now if they play FCS opponents and win? Does that put them in a position to now go to the FCS playoffs?
Well, the answer to that question is yes, Ossie, because Dr. Cable told me in an interview that if they were selected to go to the playoffs, they were going to buy out that Tuskegee game and go to the playoffs, which
Wow.
we talked about on this show. They were prepared to cut Tuskegee a check and say, we're going to the playoffs, which I got your point. Wow, that was a wild moment for me. So Alabama State, I think, clearly is on board with the playoffs, but how many playoffs? How many other schools in this conference are in favor of participating in it? We know the lack of dollars that's involved. So that is a good conversation piece, but realistically, how many of our folks are interested? And then the other part is folks have chimed in, yes, we got to pack our stadiums. If we fill up our stadiums, you don't have to worry about all that other stuff. Yeah. But unfortunately, we have to worry about all that other stuff because we're not packing our stadiums other than homecoming, other than the rivalry games. We're just not. And so, I mean, I hate to say it hurts my heart, but it's just the reality. That's where we are. So the ADs and the presidents and the CFOs, coaches, they all got to balance this stuff out because it is a tough balancing act.
And I've said this, as long as we have D2s on the schedule, as long as we have D2s on our schedule, it's going to be difficult to get into the playoffs. It just is.
Yeah.
So until we take that next step, we're going to be right where we are right now, outside looking in.
Well, now I have to bring up once again, back in the day, about when Coach Richardson and Southern would play Northwestern State. They have never played those type of teams consistently. And when Southern won, you should have seen what happened, like incident like that. The stadium was packed for homecoming, conference games, and even now, if we look at attendance, which we've talked about on this show, our schools are in the top 10 in the SWAC for attendance. So I think that's just, we got to change our mindsets about that. I think parents said it, you win. I've seen it. And I can't talk about Grambling State. I can't talk for Alcorn, but I can tell you at Southern University what happened. It didn't matter.
Right.
Those stands was packed. And let's be brutally honest again. It is certain teams are going to struggle with the scheduling.
Yeah.
Some are not. And I think you kind of have that in different conferences.
I'm gonna say this about Grambling State, and Charles and I can testify to this. When Grambling's not winning, it's hard to get people to come to the game. It's a different monster there because people believe for years and years with Coach Robinson and the winning tradition that Grambling had, when they started to have some losing moments, the fans started kind of easing away from coming to the game. And so now we have a hard time filling the game. And again, from an aesthetic standpoint and a streaming platform, that's not a good look on television to have empty spaces in your stands. And so what would make a sponsor want to sponsor your program when they don't see fans coming to the game? That's one of the things that I would think about. And then even if you throw in Prairie View, who had an amazing football season this year.
Don't go there, Ossie. Don't go there.
I broadcast their football game against UAPB on SWAC television, and I can tell you right now, you could have backed up with a dump truck full of rocks and wouldn't have thrown and hit nobody. It was that bad, and so people have to remember that if we're going to push the conference forward and push the needle, we have to start showing up, because at the end of the day, the teams that that you see on television that have usually the notoriety, whether they win or lose. They have people in the stands that come to support the program. It's bigger than sometimes than just winning and losing. They're there to support the institution as a whole.
And
we have to look at how many tickets we give away for our home games, because there's a bunch of them. I mean, between the player guest list from the opposing team and the player guest list from the home team and the AD's list from the opposing team and the AD's list for the home team, the coaches list from the visiting team, the coaches list from the away team. I mean, and then all the seats that the band takes up. If you got 300-piece band, So, I mean, there are a lot of seats there that we're just giving away for whatever reason. Not saying that it's bad or anything like that, but that's revenue that you can't count on. Then I know when I was at JSU, it cost $90,000 to have a typical home game. $90,000. So, and that comes right off the top. So no matter who, if I'm playing Mississippi Bible, it's gonna cost me $90,000 to have them at my place at home to play that game. And that's not including the guarantee that I'm gonna give them and all that sort of thing. So, there are a lot of expenses that go into having a home game. So we need to do a better job of filling our stadium. There's no doubt about that. But we also need to try to do a better job in terms of our giveaways, and look and see where we can possibly cut some costs in terms of, stadium, that sort of thing. But it's mind blowing all the way around.
Boy, they're going in the chat room. Ooh, man.
But I think it's also two tracks to this, and I think we talked about them both. So the commissioner talked about SWAC television and the amount of clicks and the amount of minutes. I think that's one thing where he can sell the sponsors for the SWAC TV piece. And it's going to expand. I think SWAC TV is going to probably have a studio in Birmingham where there'll be originating shows. I've been to the new SWAC office. It's spectacular. And I think they're going to put a studio in there to where they'll be able to do shows from Birmingham, like the SEC network and other places. But I think from the other side of it, as far as the fans are concerned, we gotta fill up our own stadium. We got to be able to do well as far as attendance. And as somebody chimed in, and Carlos, you said this for 30 years. You played these FCS teams, got to beat them. And you got to push it just as hard as you would playing a SWAC opponent. But that doesn't happen, though. I mean, because coaches are not going to get fired for losing to Samford. Samford's another school that's in our backyard, Carlos, in Birmingham, and FCS. That I forgot to mention. But if you don't beat Alabama State, if you don't beat Southern, or you'll lose your job. So those games, yes, generate revenue, perhaps, but the games that coaches are thinking about and talking about, how are you going to do in the league? How are you going to do in conference? You're going to get to the Celebration Bowl. You're going to win your division. You're going to win the SWAC. That's what I think that's what you're going to be judged on. You got coaches in their last year of their deal, and they got to get it done. Cedric Thomas's last year of his contract, and people are talking. You got Mississippi State, you got North Alabama, and you got one of those schools for homecoming. But you got UAPB in Memphis. You got Southern and Baton Rouge, Grambling, and those are the games that a lot of our folks are talking about.
I guess folks from different regions have different things on their mind. I'm looking at some of the teams that's successful and, winning those non-conference FCS games. And Willa brought up a point about recruiting, but it goes both ways. For example, Southern is recruiting against Southeastern, Nicholls State, McNeese, to a certain extent, University of Louisiana Lafayette. So what happens if you win? Just like that recruiting advantage they have, if they win, you get it. Mm-hmm. And I think an athlete, and Coach Johnson talked about when we're talking about the seeding purposes. What did he say? Dream. And then I want to be a 13 or 14 seed.
Yeah.
If, and I could be wrong, and I'll come back and say I'm wrong. But if you play these teams and you start beating them, it goes a long way. It's a given you have to win your conference games, because if you don't, you don't get to Celebration Bowl. I just think our mindset has to start changing now with the development of this conference is doing very well from a marketing standpoint, a branding standpoint, and financial. It's got to match up together. Ultimately, it's all about the conference, but you have individual, institutions, sports playing. So I think they have to match up. Now, EA, love him to death, he brings up, I'm paraphrasing, people have to start giving more. Alums, supporters, we've talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talk about it. Now it's time for action. We have a good thing, really. We have to kind of not nitpick, but go in sometimes and make a few changes. But and I say we, I don't like to say we all the time, we have a very good product. And other conferences are wishing that they have that. Now, can we get better at some things? Yeah. Can we tweak some things? That was the word I was looking for, tweak. Yeah, we couldn't do it. But our mindset has to expand and be on the same accord as what you have going on in the conference. And we'll, I guess, discuss a little more. SWAC TV news update. They're doing well. They've got a lot of eyeballs that are watching. The basketball wins, the units. They've been able to give back, get some for the conference, $10.8 million. So what else do you need to do? You just be competitive and try to improve each and every year. And I get it. It's going to be a struggle for some. But in that essence, what can we do to bring up the institutions that are struggling athletically?
Well, I do
think just some things.
I think the conference, and this is something that I've learned just working with the conference, is that the conference does offer assistance to schools that ask for that assistance behind the scenes. Dr. McClellan has been an AD at 2 SWAC schools, so he understands the dynamic and challenges. So the SWAC is there to help. But at the same time, are the schools asking the conference for help if needed? I mean, I think that's the other part of it too. I think you have pretty good administrators at our schools that they're kind of circling the wagons. We got some schools with some APR challenges, and I'm not going to throw them under the bus. It's a very difficult thing to deal with. Some schools are doing extremely well, some are not. And let's get those schools the help that they need so we all can thrive in the APR space. But there are some schools that are struggling, and I think the conference, and I think Dr. McClellan referenced the fact that if the conference, can help, they will help as far as the APR and whatever other issues. And I think that's a good thing because we all stand together. We are as one. And so it hurts my heart when you have schools that can't go to their own conference tournament. It hurts my heart. We talked about FAMU last week. There are people capping on them and talking about them. I just think that's unnecessary. Let's pray for them and let's hope that they get whatever is needed to get them back on track. Because I think if we all are doing that, I think it helps the conference as a whole. That's just my opinion. But, I think the conference is there to help, and you have very smart people in the conference office that can offer assistance to help these schools, because that's what we're all about. We're all trying to row in the same boat with the same paddle. So I hope those schools turn it around, and I think the conference is doing what they can to aid and assist those schools.
Yeah, they've always, helped their as a conference. Remember, I related when Southern was going through their issues. Dr. McClellan was then at Texas Southern. So you have people that you can go to for help experience. Now, by the same token, you got to do your due diligence.
That's the key.
And and I remember when Southern was going through their issues. Now, when I looked at that time of the academic support, it was feeble, Willa, compared to now. You go look.
Mm-hmm.
Once you got your hand caught in the cookie jar, you're not gonna get it done again. You're gonna do whatever it takes to make sure. And so that's why I didn't feel bad. I would be a hypocrite to laugh and make fun of FAMU when my school went through something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
And most of these issues, guys, is financial.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I don't think there are schools in the conference that don't know what to do. I think it's a matter of having the resources necessary in order to be able to get things done. And so I don't know that the conference is able or willing to provide funding, permanent funding, you know, for the staff necessary for some of these schools to get it done. You know, so the institutions themselves are going to have to step up to the plate in terms of providing the resources necessary for me to get the manpower that I need in order to get this done. And nothing spurs movement like being on NCAA probation. You think the presidents aren't up in arms and pulling their hair out? No, that is the kiss of death for a lot of those presidents. Make no mistake about that. That's one list you don't want to be on if you're the president of an institution. You know, so I can imagine FAMU is probably going to start doing some things now that they probably weren't doing in the past in terms of resources, that sort of thing. You're going to find money coming from somewhere because they don't want their name mentioned in that light pretty much ever again.
I'm gonna ask a crazy question. I'm gonna ask a really dumb and crazy question, okay? And this is something I've just been thinking about with this APR and what it takes to be able to stay on top of it, and the amount of staffing and all of that, and the amount of money that's lost when you don't go to the postseason. With these football rosters, and I was reading something the other day that in the next few years, there's some teams that's gonna pay $100 million for a football roster. Basketball, on that level, but I'm just saying the amount of money that's being spent on student athletes in NIL, and then you got to spend money on APR to stay compliant. I wonder, is there going to be a button of the heads in which, look, financially, can we keep up with all of this? I'm just wondering, will there be a backing? And I know a lot of money's been spent with APR already, but I'm just wondering, is that going to come to a head somewhere down the road? It's a crazy question, but it's got me thinking, like, at some point, there's only so much money. You know, you're talking about $100 million football roster. I don't care if you're Notre Dame or whatever. That's a lot of money.
But you look at the schools that are getting in trouble, Charles. The schools that are getting in trouble are those with limited resources. You know, the schools with the $100 million budgets, they have enough in the kitty in order to hire the staff that they need in order to make sure that they stay out of APR trouble, that sort of thing. So it's our schools, quote unquote, that really need the help. You know, so the $100 million roster guys, they're gonna be okay because they got the money to utilize it. I would like to see a cap on those rosters overall. You know, but heaven forbid that should happen. Because if I got 100 million, you only got 50. Don't slam me because I can spend 100 and you can't. You know, don't put the lid on my pot. You know, so I mean, it's damn if you do, damn if you don't, I think.
And those institutions that have it, they'll leave the NCAA, and you already kind of hear and talk about that. So once again, we have to give back. We've got to help our universities. Go ahead, Austin.
No, and that's what I was going to say when it relates to APR and the things that are necessary. Here's the other part that smaller institutions still have to remember. Even though there may be some NIL monies that are available to us, you're still considered a student athlete. And at some point, you still have to go to class. You still have to make the grades. You still have to make sure that you're eligible to keep the program where it needs to be. So on some level, the accountability that we're looking for, though it could be the fact that we need more monies to ensure this, the accountability still has to go back to the athlete going to class and doing its part as well to ensure the fact that these things don't happen.
And guess what? You still don't address, like we talked about, cost of attendance, NIL. I read Prairie View now has the opportunity to have 200,000 in NIL money. But you look at it, most of the athletes, I mean, I get it. Football produces the most revenue for the athletic department. But once again, what about basketball? We see some programs, they have some NIL money to give to student athletes. That's why I was more so interested in cost of attendance, because every student athlete, and correct me if I'm wrong, Will, every student athlete will get some, because then, which on our level, you're giving some of the first stringers, I guess, some of the NIL money. What about the second string? What about golf? What about track? Wouldn't cost of attendance help where everybody can get some? I see what the NIL is doing, and I see even on our level, but it's night and day. You can't compare what even the group of fives are getting. So what is the best situation going forward?
I'm going to be in the minority. I'm going to be in the minority on this, and I know I'm going to get kickback for saying it. But damn it, when we start having 18-year-olds provide for the family.
That's very well said.
That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about right now in terms of these NIL dollars and all this sort of thing. When we start depending on 18-year-old kids, okay, to take care of our families. We've always been, when we are school age, we get that scholarship. We might get that little Pell Grant money, at the end of the semester, that sort of thing. Enough for us not to have to lean on our parents in terms of dollars to continue our education and to hopefully get out of here with a degree so that we can start families of our own and take care of things from there. But now, you got 18-year-old kids, mama, daddy waiting on NIL money to take care of the 5 other kids that are at home, that sort of thing. When did the environment change to that point? Like I said, when we're dependent on 18 and 19-year-old kids to take care of our family. Now, I know in some instances that may be needed and all that sort of thing. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it was a time when, we got the little Pell Grant funds and all that sort of thing. We got our athletic scholarships. As long as it wasn't costing our parents anything, we were happy. They were happy. I might send you $20 every week or something like that so you can go to the union and get a bologna and cheese Whopper and, what have you, that sort of thing. And we were happy. But not now. It's just gone crazy. I'm sorry. It's gone crazy.
The culture has changed, Will. I get your point. And the genie's out the bottle. And they can't put it back in.
No, they can't.
So how do conferences like the SWAC and institutions like such navigate through all of this? What they used to say, you're in the world, but don't be of the world. Or something similar when I was growing up, Ossie.
That's yes, sir.
Our things are just different. So we can't compare with the other schools, but again, other conferences, but how do they navigate through this treacherous time? Now, see, it's good for some. It's great. Oh, man, the gravy is good. But don't let the green grass fool you. That was the old song. You can't.
Hmm.
Our schools, we can't do it. So we got to find out the best way to navigate through this thing called college athletics. Willa, if you had a full head of hair and you're an AD,
It'd be gone. Ain't no doubt about that.
and then let's look at some of the guys now. Well, Coach Banks is like me, clean shaven, like Charles, so they can't lose no hair. I see Ashley. Seems like he's getting a little spot there. He's getting off. But I'm being facetious, folks. They do have a tough job. And we look at some of the director of athletics, they come from a basketball background.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is asked again, does it matter if your AD has a specialization in the sport? Because it may not matter, because it's always the business side, the business sense, as Dr. Cavill would say.
I agree with that. I think if you have the business savvy, and if you get a good, this is what I'm learning, Carlos, and I guess I've learned this from Dr. McClellan, being at Texas Southern and Prairie View in the SWAC office. If you get a good team of people around you, you can make your job a whole lot easier. You can work smarter, and everybody eats. But that's easier said than done. I think that, Dr. McClellan, we look up to him in terms of what he's done for the SWAC and for Prairie View and for Texas Southern. But he seems to get really good people to work with him at each one of those stops. And I think that's very important. When you're a leader, you got to identify good people to work around you to help make the unit better. And I think that's an important piece of it. Wheeler's an AD, but he's only as good as his assistant AD. If you got to prop up your assistant ADs and the weight is on you, you're probably not going to make it long term.
And Charles, you can't spare no expense.
Right.
Okay, when it comes time to hire these people.
Correct.
You can't nickel and dime them, penny pinch them, or what have you. You got to pay people what they're worth, at the time, and let them know how valuable they are to what you're trying to get done.
Right.
Let me add a little laughter to it, because sometimes we have to have the HBC band talk said bologna and cheese Whopper.
You never had a bologna and cheese Whopper? Are you kidding me? I thought they sold that at all HBCU campus. At least back in the 70s they did.
Guess what? I've partaken of a bologna sandwich with cheese and without. But you know what? I was a young fella then, 10, 11 years old.
I'm gonna tell you, Carlos, you don't know how good that thing is at 10, 11 o'clock at night on an HBCU campus. Cafeteria closed, everything closed. Oh man, shoot, you in hog heaven, boy. I'm here to tell you.
That's why one of my former classmates said you keep a pack of Kool-Aid to go along with your meal. But
I'm gonna call Burger King, Carlos. I'm gonna see if they I'm gonna see if they can create a bologna and cheese Whopper.
Guess what? Also, they say, when you know better, you do better. I didn't know better, but boy, one day, and we've gone off. I know we've gone off script. I happened to look at the back of a bologna pack, and what it's made out of. I have not had a piece of bologna since then. But now it was good at the time, because sometimes, you got your parents together and then they divorce. Economically, things change. Some nights for dinner, that's what you had, a cheese and bologna sandwich, or even cutting them potatoes and making them home style fries. That's the only meal you had.
The problem that you made, Carlos, is that you read the back of the pack.
Some things better left unsaid.
Great point. Now, I looked at the pack with some hot dogs. Kind of the same way. but I hadn't given up my hot dog. Well, I said, V-Man said definitely. AD Wheeler had my share of bologna sandwiches. All you eat corned beef half. Oh my! Well, we might as well bring in Vienna sausage.
Might as well.
Same thing. I don't eat it not. Don't look at the pack, as Ossie said. See, not all information is meant to be shared.
That's correct.
But I just loved them growing up, but now won't touch them. Have I become wiser, Ossie, or it still just don't read the back of the package?
Well, I would say it's twofold. I think it is the fact that you have become wiser, so there's no doubt about that. But then let's just be real. Let's not read the back of the pack. Let's stay away from reading the back. Because sometimes you don't realize what you're eating until you be like, oh my God, this is what I've been eating all the time. Hey, it was delicious as long as I didn't know what I was eating. There were many meals that I ate in the country that I have no clue what they are.
But you know, go ahead, Charles.
When you're speaking, you got my mouth water talking about bologna sandwich. One of the things that my mother used to always make, she used to make a hot bologna sandwich and a bowl of Frosted Flakes cereal. It was a wonderful combination. The sweetness of the Frosted Flakes and the bologna, the hot bologna sandwich, put it on the grill for a couple of minutes, char it, put it on a couple pieces of bread with some Frosted Flakes. That's what we grew up on a little bit.
and that's a whole meal. That's a whole meal right there.
That's about as cheap as it gets.
You put that in front of one of today's kids, and you talking about a mutiny on your hands.
They'll throw it right back in your face. Like
you got that
right. I guess, and Wheeler, yes, she started that. I know my cousin, she's going to say, oh, that doggone Wheeler. But, you know, the moral of it is you do what you have to do to survive. And bring it back to athletics. And then when you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
And so we look at the different things that's going on in the conferences, but and we will take a time out. And I'm going to tell you, leadership is good. The conference under Coach McClellan and Coach Dr. McClellan and his assistants. Look how much has changed. We're not where we used to be. We're not where we're gonna be, but we're in a good spot right now.
Yes,
and I tell you, sometimes you have to. I bet you people on the other side of the fence, when all this thing started, they were looking and they were proud, but now they look across the fence and they see, boom, the conference is up there. We're gonna take a break. When we come back, SWAC TV news update, and then we got to get into some baseball. Dun, dun. I've got the softball and baseball standings right in front of me.
Ricky Williams, Coach of the Year, Carlos.
Yeah,
Coach of the Year softball.
Pat Riley already contacted me and said, "What are you going to do for Coach Williams?"
Pat Riley got other problems going on. Pat Riley got other issues going on.
He got to pay Crenshaw. Hell.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute, Wheeler. In the baseball program, let's see how the season plays out.
I would agree.
What I said. Got to be in the top 4 in the standings. If I look right now, they hadn't met that criteria. But they're on the 5-game winning streak.
But they're right there in the pack right now, Carlos. This 3-game swing can make a difference.
And I will reward them. I will give them credit. What credit's due. They're on the 5-game winning streak. Softball, I think you sit down immediately after the season. At this point right now, if they say if they finish second and they make a deep run in the tournament, the Carlos Brown contract should be in play, 2-year extension, and the raise, and for the staff. And I can hear them saying, "Well, wait a minute, Carlos, be quiet." It is just my opinion. They're going to have to do the heavy leg work, but reward them. We'll take a time out. When we come back, the more of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We shall return.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. Whether you're a student or a lifelong supporter, our gear lets you wear your HBCU story with confidence and style. Because when you wear HBCU Image, you're not just wearing clothes. You're wearing culture. You're wearing pride. You're wearing purpose. HBCU Image, a Kenny T's company.
From cancer care to accidental injuries to cardiac care, we all know that there are times that you can't control what happens in your life. But with Globe Life Family Heritage, you can be prepared to weather the storm when it comes. Call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com. With over 25 years of serving communities, Dr. Beverly Eagles Rogers is here to help you and your family through difficult times. Dr. Beverly takes pride in Globe Life being one of the few companies that returns 100% of premiums to clients that stay healthy. So for more information, call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell them mama hungry.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. The panel, Willa Brown, A.D. Willa Brown, Charles Edmond, Ossie Clark joining in. You know, I love doing live shows. During the break, and boy, I thought, maybe I'm in trouble. Was it my famous, to me, female older cousin who always gets on me about everything? But TM texted me, and he basically wanted to know when we were talking about, and I think somebody on the panel brought up, maybe it was you, Charles, about the conference games being non-conference, like Southern Alabama State. They're playing again, but it doesn't count. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But he basically was saying, are you saying that when Southern and Jackson State fall off each other's schedules, they should not play? Y'all don't want to see that game? I think that would be a tragedy. I was like, whoa, excellent point. We've talked about that before. So maybe I have to rewrite my reaction to it, because I think it was Charles when you said it, I was shaking my head. No. Because some games, remember, it got to a point where, did this game count in the conference? We're playing a conference member, and this game didn't count. And you just have to sit back and look at it, and then you can come up with what is what. So he brought up the example of Jackson State and Southern. You remember a few years ago, they moved the game in Jackson. That was one issue. But let me say this, Southern and Jackson State, it would be hard, Will, not for them to ever be on the schedule. So if you have to play them as a non-conference game, but they're conference member, of course, it'll still count in the overall record. So
and I think each school gets like 2 rivalries or something. 2 teams, at least 2 teams that stay on the schedule all the way throughout.
Right. And then you rotate.
You
rotate that with the other members, especially because you got divisional play. Yeah, right. So he basically was saying, wait a minute, Carlos, you're saying that Jackson State, when it's time to roll off, no. Not thought about it. So TM, valid point. That would be hard to do. You could not. Now, and Southern's other opponent is FAMU. So Charles, nobody's ducking.
Right.
Southern playing the heavyweights.
Yeah, well, I mean,
year in, year out.
The master schedule is what it is. I mean, some schools are going to roll off, some are going to come on. You know, we're not playing Alabama State or A&M this year, but I'm sure one of those will roll on the schedule at some point. But I'm just saying, in this new landscape of trying to fill a schedule, if the FCS games are a challenge, if the D2 games are a challenge, if the D3 games are a challenge, you're not playing the Lynchburgs and the Lincolns anymore. Is it feasible for some of our schools? Now, I'll give an exception to Prairie View, Texas Southern. I don't see them playing Alabama State or A&M if it doesn't count in the standings. I think from a logistical standpoint, I don't think that will happen, just in my view. But other games like Southern and Alabama A&M or Southern and Alabama State, when one of them rolls off, because I think that will be good to play, just like Southern Jackson. I think it would be a good thing. I think some fans would like to see that, just to go back to the old playing everybody in the SWAC or playing as many teams as you can in the SWAC. So I think that's just an option for some of our teams where it might not have been an option in years past. And I also think it's more education in terms of what games count and what games don't. I think we're a little confused about it 5-6 years ago. It counts for one, but don't count for the other. I think it's more education on that now, where we know the games when Southern is playing Jackson, if it counts on paper or not. We're educated more about that now. So I don't think that's as much of a conversation. But it was just an option to throw out there. Somebody on social media brought it up. And I think it's an interesting point. We'll see if we see more of these SWAC matchups that don't necessarily count in the standings get played.
And Zach says, would you go into a 9-game conference schedule, eliminate that? With 12-game FCS schedule, you can do a 9-game SWAC schedule.
Yeah.
Because that's right. Ossie and Wheeler, you know, every few years you might have 12 games. But now you can have 12 games every year. Now I know, Wheeler, there's a expense to that, but then you can bring in one of those, or I would favor, when I say one of those, one of the conference members, a non-conference, but I'm at the mindset right now. I want to play the McNeeses and the Northwesterns, because I'm just gonna be brutally honest. They look at the records between the two conferences, and they have the edge. And I'm so competitive, Ossie. We could be playing backgammon, and if I lose too many times, I'm not going to be a happy camper. So from a competitive standpoint, and Willa brought that up, you want to play them and beat them. You know, will fans be in the stands? You know, they don't bring in the fans. I don't watch it. I don't. If they bring one fan, I want my fans there. And I think having a winning record and doing well consistently. Look, Southern was 2-10 last year, right? You want to know what their attendance was? It wasn't as great as I've seen before, but they still were in the top 5.
Yeah,
still in the top 5. Now, Southern fans are like some others. They can get very nasty when things are not going right. But even though they complain and get nasty, pretty much they still there. Now, I can only speak for Southern.
My thing is, don't make the 12th game optional. Make it mandatory. Make it so everybody got to play 12. Yeah, because if you make it optional, you're always going to be a little lopsided there because you're going to have some schools that's not going to take that chance, that sort of thing. So if you're going to play 12, make it mandatory, NCAA-wise, period. End of story. You know, if you don't have the money, you got to find the money. You know, just like you find the money for 11, you know, you find the money for 12 because that's required for NCAA membership.
Now, great point. I would love to see, and I hope I'm not going to start nothing, Ossie. I'll get you to pray for me. But I would love to see Jackson State play a nickel state. And since Louisiana is right next door, play a McNeese. And some of the great teams that they have.
Probably not going to happen. Probably not going to happen.
Well, let me finish my point, Charles. I'm going to tell you why. Because it's one thing I know, the ultimate goal is to host a SWAC championship, win one, get to the Celebration Bowl, and win that, right?
Right.
But I think you can have your cake and eat it too. Two things can be true at once. I love to see it. I'm like Coach Taylor said, he kind of wondered going to the playoffs with some of those great teams the last few years, how well would they have done?
I'm going to say this about Jackson State in particular. Jackson State, the last time that I remember Jackson State playing Northwestern, I think I may have been in either elementary school or junior high school. It's been many years since I've seen Jackson State play a team like a Northwestern, you know, and would it be a good game or a Nickel State? Those games would be good. I don't know the logistical issues on the Jackson side for them not playing those types of ball games, but I also know that if, to Wheeler's point, if you're going to have, you know, games that you're going to make a mandatory 12-game schedule, you have to figure out who are the games that you can play and what are the teams that you can play that are very competitive games and that you can win. Because at the end of the day, I'm with you all. I don't want to lose. I don't like losing. And let me just say this. As a broadcaster, when I was broadcasting Grambling football games on radio, it would hurt my heart when we would lose games because I couldn't stand the losing across the board. And so at the end of the day, I think competitiveness is one thing, but the other thing is having a product that's on the field that can win football games or win games in general will make a big difference to teams.
I think knowing Ashley Robinson a little bit like I do, I think Jackson State would lean more towards the Tennessee States, renewing that rivalry, the Tuskegees of the world, maybe the Fort Valleys, rather than to play the McNeeses. Just, and I might be wrong about this, but I just think that's just kind of where they're leaning. Now, when Dion was coaching, they played Campbell, I believe. And they were an FCS opponent. That's probably an outlier. That probably won't happen again. But I think knowing a little bit Ashley's mindset, I think he's leaning towards the HBCU, the Tuskegees, the Tennessee States of the world, rather than playing the McNeeses. And now, look, I grew up, and when I got to Alcorn right here, 1AA playoffs. Alcorn played Youngstown State and Alcorn played Northeast Louisiana, which is now ULM. I loved it. And I'm pro playoffs. I'm pro FCS playoffs, but I understand the dynamic and challenges and all that other stuff. But I'm probably in the minority on it. And so I think as far as Jackson goes, yeah, would I love to see it for them? Sure. But I think knowing Ashley, he's more the HBCU type. He's going to play the Tuskegees. He's going to play the Tennessee States. I think that's where he's leaning. Yeah.
Well, you know him better than I do. I was just saying it would be nice to see Wondering Minds dreaming. Yeah. What a matchup like, you know, again, Jackson State, Southeast, and Nichols, but they have to do what they have to do. But it'd be nice to see it. And speaking of FCS playoffs, no, I'm not pro playoffs. You know why? The way the format's set up. I was just reading an article where a team that got 4 into the FCS playoffs, they end up spending like, wait a minute, $700,000 or making $700,000.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can make more money if you host a SWAC championship game and then get to the Celebration Bowl. Oh, that was in the article with Dr. McClellan and talking about things that they've achieved so far. And I like that route, but I also like playing those teams non-conference. So back to, I like to have my cake and eat it too. Playing them, but beating them.
Yeah.
Beating
them. Well, you remember Carlos, Charles, and Wheeler, you remember the very reason why Grambling decided never to go back to the 1AA playoffs at that time, the FCS playoffs, was Grambling moved the Bayou Classic up a week to play Southern, to go play Stephen F. Austin, and Coach Robinson got beat at Stephen F. Austin. And Coach Grambling led that football game up until like the very end. And Coach Robinson made the statement, say, hey, I've never been ahead on anybody by this many points, and somebody's come back and just really beat me like this. And he realized that by moving the Bayou Classic, the amount of money that he lost for the institution, where on one hand, people are thinking notoriety. At the end of the day, and you guys can speak to this greater than I can, it's going to be, what's the bottom line? How much money are we going to lose in this process to how much money we can make? And so that's the reason why Grambling and Southern will never be eligible for the FCS playoffs unless things change, because the amount of money that the Bayou Classic brings to the institutions as a whole.
I see it hurt my heart because I engineered that game at KGRL. Grambling was 27-7 on Stephen F. Austin and lost 59-56.
Have to close.
Hurt my heart. Hurt my heart. That was the last time I think that setup was like that, where the Bayou Classic was a little earlier, where the Grambling could go to the playoffs.
Yes, sir. He said he would never move the game again. He knew at the end of the day, he knew the revenue that he lost, but he also realized that at that time, the opportunity to get a fair shake in some of those games that you were going to go and play, and especially having a better team, a better record, and you couldn't even play at home at those times. So I can see the logistical issues there. But when money's on the line, I'm not going to turn down, I'm just going to say theoretically, $2 million to pay $700,000 to play a game.
Yeah. And, you know, they get most of the gate, items sold, paraphernalia. And it's, you know, we've had this discussion a long time, Will, right? I mean, you know, and for those programs who want to play and have the opportunity to do it, then you still going to have to play some of those teams in regular season and have success.
You got to schedule accordingly, no doubt.
Yeah. So with that being said, gonna quickly go SWAC TV, 55 million minutes watched in 8 months, over 2.5 million unique views, and roughly 580 million impressions across the platform, according to Dr. McClellan in his conversation. The commissioner framed the network's origin as equal parts, vision by the conference, and cultural timing. Now, I'm referencing this from HBCU Legends and Kyle Mosley. Excellent article. And I like at the end where, you have the frequently asked questions. They talk about golf gets a national stage. That's where the conversation was had. Santoria Black and Charles Bishop.
Mm-hmm.
He also said we have 18 sports, it's Dr. McCullough, and we want to highlight all 18. So in the very near future, all of the sports will be on. You had what you had this year, but it'll be golf, volleyball, the Olympic sports. So that is great coming up. He also confirmed that the golf and tennis coverage will expand in the 26-27 cycle as the network's production budget grows. I'm scrolling down quickly. He also mentioned 33 SWAC administrators on the NCAA committees. Ashley Robinson's on one. Alabama State President Quentin Ross serves on the NCAA Division I Board of Directors. Ashley represents the conference on the NCAA Basketball Rules Committee. He says, quote, end quote, Dr. McClellan, when you're talking about at the highest level, when dollars are allocated and spent, it has to be approved. So we're talking about more money. Here's where he connects it. The commissioner connected that inside the room positioning to the conference's first four strategy. SWAC programs have won 5 of the last 6 first 4 games, generating $10.8 million in the NCAA tournament unit distribution that flows back to members institutions over a 6-year women. Of course, Southern women back to back. I'm gonna toot that. But you had success with Purview this year, and there's somebody else I'm missing. On the men's side, they've won final 4 games. Also, talk about SWAC eliminates non-Division I and Division II football opponents. The key is none. Like the Virginia Lynchburgs, those type. I would like this to be extended to basketball. I'm not being a hypocrite. Southern men's basketball and women have. I know the men have had those type of teams on the schedule. Willer, I'll probably be shot and hanged for suggesting that you shouldn't do it in basketball. You should have the same legislation for basketball. Dr. McCullough says, no longer are we going to play games that don't count. It's going to allow our teams to have more competitive games. It's going to allow our fans to have more competitive games to go watch and go support. As Ossie talked about, the essence of when you're streaming, and let's just be honest, you're playing Virginia Lynchburg, and I get it. Most times, a lot of times you play them at homecoming because everybody's going to be there anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I would agree with that. And there was one more thing I wanted to bring out.
I wonder what that's going to mean for those schools, for the College of Biblical Studies and the Lynchburgs and I think Wheeler brought it up. Those schools are relying on that $45,000, $50,000 paycheck to come play. What is that going to mean for them?
Especially, they add up. I think Lynchburg might have been playing like 8 or 9 guarantees.
$250,000 gone down the drain.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point. Yeah. You didn't think about that. But here again, just like they're going through that, what happens when we can't get those guarantee games, those big ones? Flip it. That's the same thing going to happen. What are you going to do?
At some point, there was an old adage that I heard a preacher say one time: what happens when helping you starts hurting me? And for some people, that's what it is right now. I'm helping you, but at the end, it's really taken away from the bottom line here. And so I have to reappropriate sometimes and say, hey, I may not be able to help as much. I may have to find another way to maybe backdoor you in some kind of way. But when helping you starts hurting me, I must rethink the way that I do things.
Well, but for a lot of those schools, guys, I'm talking about VUL and schools like that. Those 75 or 80 football players represent revenue to them.
Say it again.
He approves. It represents revenue for
also. Just in terms of general population, because they're all students, and there is money allotted for the student population.
Well, back to somebody has to be creative. The ADs and the coaches, they all. It's going to be hard, but they're going to have to kind of find
a lot
a
of
way
schools
to get
don't have ADs, Carlos.
Well, then the presidents, they
pastor.
They do a 2-for-1. that in essence is a problem in itself. One of the frequent asked questions that Kyle Mosley had in his article, and it's titled McClellan 55 minutes 10.8 million banked, but it was a part and honestly, you talked about a streaming service. Is SWAC TV a streaming service? And Dr. McClellan says it's more than that. It's the same thing as ESPN. I mean, they have streaming services, but it is a digital network.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull it back up again.
And it has, like we talked about in the first hour, I mean, the SWAC TV component is just the beginning. I mean, I do think that they're going to expand to where they're going to have a studio and have studio shows. So I think this right here is just the tip of the iceberg. And I think it's gotten off to a tremendous start. And I think they're just going to add more to it to make it just a one-stop shop for all SWAC games. I mean, you can go back and watch. I think that's the goal going forward. Any SWAC game, you'll be able to pull up SWAC TV on your phone or device and watch any game. Even the WNIT game that we had here a few weeks ago, that was on SWAC TV. Ossie was here for that. And I didn't, so the SWAC had to kind of get involved with that to make that work. So I think that's where the conference wants to get to, a one-stop shop where you can watch any SWAC contest, football, track, golf, it doesn't matter. You go to that one platform and see it all.
Here's the point, and excuse me. Here's the point I wanted to bring out. Is SWAC TV a streaming service? That's the question. Commissioner McClellan characterized SWAC TV as a legitimate digital television network comparable to ESPN Plus and Paramount Plus, with plans to expand onto East platforms such as Roku, Pluto TV, and eventually launch as a cable network.
Right.
Bam. Now, actually, I have Pluto TV. Just found out about a week ago that I have all of these streamings, these different services. One-stop shop, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, can we find a way to cut the cost a little bit? But that's another story. But you pay for what you want, right?
Pay for the one stop. Yes. Pay for the one stop, baby.
So that means I got to cut out some extra food items, pies, and all that good stuff. Man, to cut it back. Yeah. Let me transition quickly.
How about baseball, Carlos? How about SWAC baseball?
Well, I was getting to that, but I'm gonna pull up softball right quick. Still East-West format. In the East, FAMU. Boy, I tell you, FAMU is just getting hot on everything. 16-4, 25-17 overall record. They're on a 2-game winning streak. Now, this is according to Southwestern Athletic Conference. Jackson State, 13-6. On a 1-game winning streak. I'll just give the conference records. Bethune-Cookman, 12-7. They're on a 3-game winning streak. Alabama State, 10-8. Alabama A&M, 6-14. And Valley, wow, I guess it is right, 0-20. 1-34 overall record, lost 27 in a row. Now in the West, Prairie View A&M 16-1. They're on a 5-game winning streak. They got a winning record overall, 24-14. Southern 15-5, 29-12 overall, 7-game winning streak. Texas Southern 14-6, 25-10 overall on a 5-game winning streak. Then Pine Bluff 4-11, 7-game losing streak. Grambling State 4-15. Wow, 5-game losing streak. And Alcorn 1-16, 6-game losing streak. Man, it's tough. It's tough on the reservation. Baseball, softball, football is hanging on. Basketball, new coach. Women, Charles, I'll be honest, women's basketball probably is the leading sport down the conference.
Right now the Lady Braves, I mean, we had a good 3-year run, second place finish, WNIT appearance, back-to-back SWAC championship games, but there's going to be some retooling. We lost quite a bit there. So Nate Gilbert's got some work to do, and some players have shown interest in the program based on our WNIT appearance. And so we'll see how that goes. Softball and baseball, young coaches in terms of their tenure, it's been a struggle with pitching. No question about it. Even though yesterday here, I thought we played pretty well. And one kid, the DH for Southern University, had a big game. But I think for me, I think the patience is still there for baseball and softball. It's just going to take time. And I know in this landscape we don't have time, but I think when it comes to baseball, softball, to a certain extent, I know we talked about Crenshaw's situation, but I think here is a little bit more patience to get this thing turned around. So I don't expect anything to happen in terms of coaches being let go. Of course, that's another story. And we lost 2 football coaches, by the way, 2 assistant football coaches, as they pursued other opportunities from the football side of the house. So, but as far as baseball and softball, I don't anticipate anybody being let go. Just continue to be patient. Coach Hardy, watching him just a few minutes ago, he's very tempered. He won at Savannah State, and he told me last year he went through the same thing at Savannah. And I think, they'll give him time to turn it around, and Coach Billy with softball. But to answer your question, Nate Gilbert's the best thing going right now. We didn't get to where we wanted to go. We wanted to win the SWAC championship, the SWAC tournament. Didn't get there. Got a postseason game out of it, which is good. But right now, Lady Braves basketball has what it has right now.
As Willis said, give Gilbert that extension now, and not no measly 1 year. SWAC baseball, Bethune-Cookman on top, 13-3, along with FAMU. Can we see them battling to the end of the year?
Yes.
In the state of Florida, Texas Southern 12-4, Pine Bluff 11-5. I don't know. I'm surprised by that. Pine Bluff. I followed them more closely when Carlos James was there. They've had some success, but they're doing good this year. They're doing really good, and they're in that top 4. As I stated, some other coach has to be when the regular season ends in that top 4. In the top 4, that's all I'm asking. Alabama State 9-7 in conference. They're on a 1-game winning streak. Bethune-Cookman on the 4-game winning streak. Then you got Alabama State, Southern tied at 9-7. Grambling State half game back 8-7. Valley 7-9. Valley was they slipped down a little bit since the last couple of weeks. We talked a little bit of SWAC baseball. Jackson State 6-10. Overall on a 3-game losing streak. Prairie View 3-12. Alabama A&M 2-14. Alcorn State 2-14. Grambling State, Valley, Jackson State, Prairie View A&M, Alabama A&M, and Alcorn State all on multiple losing streaks. Where do you see it going?
I think Grambling actually beat Prairie View last night.
Okay.
12-2. I think so they get off the skid from, I think, like a 6-game losing streak.
Mm-hmm. So 9-7 and Prairie View 3-13.
I was talking with somebody last night about Bethune-Cookman. Of course, the last 2 weeks they beat LSU and they beat Florida, 2 nationally ranked teams. Here's a question for the baseball folks out there. We were just talking last night. If Bethune-Cookman wins the whole thing, are they still a 4 seed going in the NCAA tournament?
Good question.
I think that changes the. I think it changes the landscape, Charles. To be honest with you, there's no way. Even though LSU is not top tier like they have been in years, but still, you're talking about a Florida team that at one point was ranked as high as 4, I think 13, and then now somewhere in the top 20. So you're talking about 2 traditional SEC powerhouses that Bethune-Cookman has come in and didn't just play. I'm talking about roasted them.
Yeah. But my question though,
I wonder if it's the same format. You know how the same discussion we had about basketball. You have Bethune-Cookman doing great in FAMU, but then as a conference, will that hold them back? And I'm trying to remember. I'm having a middle-aged moment. I'm trying to remember did Southern, even with Ricky Weeks, were they a 3 seed one time? Now this is kind of an older format.
Yeah. We were talking about that too last night, Carlos. Was talking with somebody about it. I think Bethune can't afford to drop in. I don't think they can afford to drop too many more games in conference. You know, I think the rest of the conference, the way we are right now, it may help Bethune's case to get them a 3. And so I think that's a really interesting discussion how the committee's going to look at that. What could hurt is the conference. You got what Bethune's got with 3 conference losses. Does that hurt them if they run the table and win the tournament? I hope not, because I want to see them instead of playing at Florida State's regional plan at Florida State. I would love to see them be in the Florida State Tallahassee regional and play Stanford or something like that. I mean, I think even though you're still coming back to the host team the second game, assuming the home team wins that game, I just hope that Bethune gets that 3 if they win the tournament. Of course, we're assuming that they will, but there's a lot of baseball left. But that's an interesting conversation that I was having last night with somebody.
And here's another part of that, Charles, to that nobody's going to take Bethune lightly anyway. No. After they've come away with those wins, nobody's going to take them lightly. So you're not going to say, well, it's going to be an easy win or an easy opportunity to come away with it. Bethune is as solid a baseball team as you're going to find around this conference. They have one of the top pitchers right now who has a 9-1 record. He has a 2.17 ERA. He is getting the job done. And I wish I could remember the young man's name and just kind of
Jonathan Hernandez.
Doing a fabulous job. And so we have a guy that can get up there and they can do the work that's being done on the mound. That's going to make the big difference because they've got pitching, and that's always made the difference in baseball.
Yeah, in the chat room they're weighing in. Yeah, Jeremiah Clark says, I don't think they'll get a 3 because there are several mid-majors with top 25 teams win. It would be nice, though. Yeah, Southern was a 3 seed in the Hattiesburg regional. It was the number 3. Yeah. David Joseph says Bethune-Cookman is undefeated in the SEC.
It's true.
Yeah. Jeremiah Clark says they would need a 3. They would need a few more big wins to get a number 3 seed. Now I don't know. I have to look up that non-conference, the midweek games, the rest of the schedule, to see if they have those type of teams on there. But if they're 4-3, if they're in the Florida State region, at least they'll have the mindset that we can beat them. We went to LSU and won midweek, and we went to Florida in the midweek game. Now, I will say this. I'm pretty sure LSU and Florida they didn't through their normal weekend number 1 starters. But then that's a question when they always play in the playoffs, Wheeler, they try to not throw their number 1 pitcher and throw a lower one to save him.
Yeah.
I wonder what they do that now.
I doubt it. I doubt it. It's win or go home, man.
Win or go home. And on that note, we tried to get through everything. It's a lot that's going on. SWAC and baseball and softball, they're heating up, going toward the end of the regular season. SWAC's new football scheduling model, we talked a little bit about that. SWAC TV's news update. That gathered a lot of information. But baseball, I still #free Crenshaw.
I see Crenshaw over there, Carlos, looking up at you. I think he's heading this way. Do you have a message for him?
Just win, baby. Just win. That's what you tell him.
I'll tell him that. I'm getting ready. I think he might be heading up this way.
You see him out there on the first base line, Charles?
No, well, actually, he's on the third base line. I think he's coming up the steps.
Hey, I've had to deal with, God rest his soul, Dr. Greggs, who's just one tough cookie. I'll stand my ground. As I said earlier, the eyes are going to be in Jackson and they're going to be in Baton Rouge.
What do you say, Carlos? You ain't hard to find, are you?
No. and he's not hard to find either. Too much history in Jackson and in Baton Rouge for the baseball programs. We expect better, and Grambling. Remember at one point, those were the only championships won.
Yeah.
But everybody started investing in it. But I think critical eyes are always going to be in those three places: Grambling, Jackson, and Southern, and specifically Southern and Jackson this year. Come on.
Yeah.
In that top third, top four, and go deep in the tournament. Then I will talk on the behalf of their Carlos Brown contract. 2 years. I'm not as confident, but hopefully they'll make me change my mind. I want to thank Roy for producing. Everybody in the chat room, let the conversation continue. Thanks to Ossie for doing a bang-up job. When we ever need somebody, I know to call Ossie.
Great pitch.
Hey, man, I'm just thankful that y'all treat me like that uncle that you keep in the back room. You don't ever let him come out when company's around. But when you know you need him, he's always there.
Yeah. On that note, peace and God bless. We'll see you next Saturday.